Well, hello, everybody. It is Fulfilling Relationships Week at the Intentional Living Project. And this week, we're talking about the important relationship of parent with their child. Is your parenting starting to feel like a tug-of-war battle with your kids? Well, today we have chiropractor Dr. Michelle here with us, who loves to help busy moms bring balance and connectedness into their families. And she's going to help us understand a little bit about what we can do to remove that battle and have more loving, connected relationships in the home. Hi, Dr. Michelle. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, Michelle, could you tell us a little bit more about what you do to help parents connect with their children?
Well, I've been a chiropractor, as you mentioned, for over 14 years now, and I really see a lot of families in my practice. So I've always been very family oriented. So seeing, children right from birth all the way up. And one of the big things that I noticed when I was looking at families is we've kind of lost some of that connection with our family members. And part of it is just because we're so busy. We're running from one thing to the other, and all the parents, they're like, oh, I'm just trying in between, sports activities or other things. And I think sometimes we're missing something now. We're missing that connection with our children and with our families because we're trying to do so much for them, which is great. And, get them into sports and get them into all these activities, but we're just not maybe doing the best we can at actually connecting. And it's in this kind of gap that I started looking at personality styles. And at first I thought, oh, this will be really interesting to use in my practice because I'll be able to understand people's personalities a little bit more and then help them in their health because I'll know better how to implement in different strategies for them. And when I started becoming certified in, training on personalities, I did my own personality assessment, and then I did my children's. And this is where really the light bulb went off for me because I did the assessment and I realized that my husband and my 4 children were the complete opposite of me. And the light bulb went off because I'm sure other people can relate to this in whatever relationship you're in, is you really want to be the best at that relationship. So for me, I really wanted to be the best mom. And when I saw that our personalities were so different, I realized I maybe wasn't being the best mom because when I was praising them, when I was trying to show them love, or when I was, punishing them, I was doing it how I wanted it done, how I thought would be respectful to have it done. But what I was forgetting is that they have different personalities and I wasn't doing it how they needed it to be done. And so that's where the tug of war comes, because for your child or maybe your spouse or your partner, then feeling heard, loved, connected, and really accepted. And that's where I realized, we've got to do something about this. And that's where I really moved to creating a program where we're looking at what are the personality styles in your home and how can you use that to create greater connection within your family.
Beautiful. So I'm wondering, what can we do to start knowing the personalities of all of our family members?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole personality assessment that I do on people, but here's the thing. We can also start from home right now. And the first thing we can do is just ask ourselves 2 basic questions. And you're going to want to ask this of yourself first, so you can kind of find out the basics of your personality, but then you're going to want to do it for your children, your partner, maybe other people that you're dealing with. But the first question is, are you outgoing or reserved? So if you're outgoing, you're going to be more, fast paced. You're going to be energetic, interactive. You're going to be the one that gets involved, right? You're going to be that outgoing versus reserved, who's more slow paced. They might be more cautious, to do things, reluctant. They might be careful, they're more of a steady kind of personality. So the first thing is to ask yourself, okay, Am I more outgoing or am I more reserved? Then the second question we're going to ask ourselves, are you more task oriented or are you more people oriented? And so if you're more task oriented, it's things like you like to be involved in programs, planning, projects. You like to get things done, and you can see this if your child is one of those children who like to get things done versus the opposite, which are more people oriented, and they're really into friendships. They're really into having people around them, being liked, and really having that interaction all the time. And when you do that, you're going to get answers to kind of those two basic questions. Then what you're going to do is just grab a piece of paper and draw a circle on a piece of paper. And you're going to draw a line horizontally and vertically on your paper. So you'll have 4 quadrants in that circle. And the top left is going to be D. The one on the right is going to be I. The lower right is going to be S. And then the lower left is going to be C. And I know people don't know what that means. At the beginning, I didn't either. But when we're looking at it, what we want to do is, if you are more task and more outgoing, you're going to put yourself in that top left quadrant. If you're more outgoing, but instead of task, you're more people-oriented, you're going to be in the top right. If you are more people-oriented, but you're reserved, it's going to be in the bottom right. And if you're more task and reserved, you're going to be in the bottom left. And that's the first step. Now, just so you know what each of those quadrants are, that D is really dominant. They are the doers. Okay, so if you're looking, that's the doer kind of personality. The I is really inspiring. They're more interactive in what they do. The bottom right, they're supporters. So they're really into people, but they're steady. They're still cautious. And then we have those really cautious people at the bottom left. And it's not, I know this is just a tidbit of information, but I'll tell you that when I've worked with families and they've just had this little bit and they can start to plug themselves into this circle, and then their children and their spouse or other people that, if you have a nanny, if you have somebody that really is interactive in your family, plot them on this circle, because you'll really see, one, who's like you, who's different, and where are we all kind of on this gradient of personalities. And of course, we're all a mix of all of them, right? We can all be doers and we can all be cautious and but we've got one that's kind of more leading the charge, if you will. So that's the first thing we can really do, is identify what's the major personality style that we are and our children and our family.
I love this. I love a simple tool just to get more insight into, if people aren't just like me, then what's going on with them. Yeah. So Dr. Michelle, I know you're on a mission to help eliminate stress in families. As you mentioned earlier, we're just on the go, shuttling kids from here to there. And, there's always, 90 miles a minute to get things done. I'm wondering how these two tie in. How do you help families use this information to reduce stress in the home?
Mm-hmm. And, stress is so prevalent, as you know. It's really, it affects us because we have stress all the time. It's good stress, bad stress, it's just coming in. And we can use this tool by taking it and then understanding it a little bit further. So, if we look at that DISC, which is really called DISC, and that's the personality kind of insight or training. When we look at it, somebody who's stressed, that's more in that D personality, is going to become verbally abusive. They're abrasive, right? They can be almost insensitive and impatient. Okay. An I person, though, on the other hand, is going to be more manipulative. They're more whiny. They're going to pout. They might be a little bit careless in their thoughts and actions. And then an S is going to be a little different still. They're going to be more indecisive, in that they're the type of people that can't say no. And when they get stressed, right, it becomes almost like they don't know what to do because they want to please everybody. And then the C's are more withdrawn because they're cautious. So when stress comes around, they actually become detached and need time alone. So the first way that we're going to use this tool is because we've identified kind of a major personality style that they are. And then once we see these behaviors start to come out in our children, we can say, okay, I might not like that you're, getting kind of verbally abusive or impatient or angry with me, but I'm seeing that you're stressed, right? We could start by that and acknowledging their feelings first by saying, yes, you know what? I'm hearing you. I understand you and I'm listening. And so now they feel heard, they feel understood, right? And then the next point is to actually give them what they need. And remember, it's not what we need, right? And so this is hard when you have opposites, because you're going to have to do stuff that you might not think of at the beginning to do, right? It's almost like you're going to have to get outside your comfort zone to do these things. And so for that deep personality, again, who's like, they're getting all abusive and tough, they actually need choices. So when they feel stress, what we can do is we can actually offer them choices so that they can make a decision, right? They want to be empowered. Because they're doers, right? So if they have choices, they feel like now I can make a decision and I can do something, right? Whereas because they're more that whining, pouty kind of manipulative, they're actually going to need lots of reinforcement, right? So it's just about giving them that, okay, here's what's going on. It's really listening and reinforcing for them and allowing them to express themselves and saying, you know what, it's good to be, yes, keep telling me what's going on and sharing. With more of the S who, can't say no and they're indecisive, they actually need you to set a routine for them. They want you to actually give them something predictable to kind of hang on to. And they also need more, time with you. They're the kind of snugglers, so when they get stressed, they want to be hugged. They're happy just with that. And then more of that C who's cautious, they actually need time to think. And that's where the alone time comes in. Is we don't want to rush them. And it's easy for us to do that, is to say, quick, let's make a decision. Are you in? Are you out? We got to go here or there. What do you want for dinner? Is it and we kind of sign a rush, but when they're stressed, it's actually the opposite of what they want. So by just using that tool and then knowing just these little kind of clues that you can use, you can actually help now your children feel heard, feel loved, feel understood, and then actually match it by giving them what they need, which is going to reduce the stress and is going to make them feel like, hey, you know what? My parents are listening, and now I don't have to feel stressed, because something's actually happening. Something is being done about it.
And I have to believe, I know for me, if I'm in a difficult conversation, let's say with my husband, when I feel like he understands me, he gets my personality and what I need, it's like, stepping into a warm bath. It just feels so good. So being understood this way as a child, where parents can match their needs, just feels like it would, build that fulfilling relationship that we're talking about. Dr. Michelle, this is great. So do you have some suggestions for us? We can do the disc, answer the questions. Anything else we should do to get started using this information today?
Well, I think there's a few things. One is that we can kind of get overwhelmed by it and think, oh, now I got to research everything and, see what I can do. But my first advice is just to think of one thing and start that. So if you just go through the test to see, where your child kind of fits in on the tool, and you just identify what helps to reduce their stress, even just doing that. So if there's somebody that needs choices, just thinking, okay, when I'm talking to this child, just a mental note to myself, make sure I'm always giving choices so that they can decide, right? If it's somebody that needs more support, just make sure I know, yeah, I've got to, hug more. And I'll just be totally honest, I am very a task-oriented person. And so at the beginning, when I identified this, I realized all my children and my husband were more the supportive. So it actually needed hugs to feel supported and not like I was doing things for them. And at the beginning, I had to, you kind of have to write a note for yourself almost. And it sounds so silly, but it's like what comes naturally to us might not be what the person wants. And so we have to train ourselves to say, no, this is what I need to do. And it's a work in progress. So the first thing I'd say is identify one thing and start it. The second thing is don't walk around on autopilot. Start to look for clues that come up about your child so that they really do feel heard and understood and then listened to. So that's the second thing. And the third thing that's really easy is just to use it simply, as I said at the beginning, is who's like me, who's different, and start with that and just realize, okay, you know what, for the people that are different, I'm going to have to think outside the box in order to really create that connection that we all want and we all crave and really we all need to have.
This is great. Thank you so much for so much quality information in such a short amount of time. Everybody, Dr. Michelle's website is busymomshealthyfamilies.com. And that, of course, the link will be below this video, so you can easily be in touch with her. And we want to hear from all of you. Please answer the questions. Are you outgoing or reserved? And are you more task-oriented or people-oriented? And then post below what works well for you so we can start getting a sense of these things. Like, if I'm not a D, what kind of things? Is it choices that works well for you, or what helps you feel connected, so that we can start looking for those clues of what might work well for our children too, if they're different than we are. Dr. Michelle, thank you again so much for joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what people post. That's for sure.
Awesome. And we'll be looking forward to seeing you all next week for, I believe it's Financial Wealth Week. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.